Welcome to Lighting for Profits.
All light.
Powered by Emery Allen.
Get rid of your excuses.
Your number one source for all things landscape lighting.
That's where the magic can happen. You can really scale a business.
We really had to show up for each other.
From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
You're a scaredy cat salesman, Kurt.
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What do you think a hippo has to do with your business, Ryan?
Usually it's some weird childhood thing. Some bully kicks your butt.
I think the key factor here is trust.
Here is your host, Ryan Lee.
What is up? Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in Idaho. That's right. It's the number one landscape lighting show in Idaho. It's Lighting for Profits, powered by Emery Allen. Gosh, someone teach me how to use these buttons. Powered by Emery Allen, and we're broadcasting live from the Landscape Lighting Secret Studios in Salt Lake City, Utah, actually, Lehigh. And it's America's favorite, sometimes Canada's favorite, and recently it's Qatar's favorite. It's worldwide. I met someone last week, and they subscribed to the podcast, and they live in Qatar. Like, what? We're going worldwide on us. It's so cool. So cool to be here with you guys. If you're looking to start or grow a landscape lighting business, then you're definitely in the right place. We're here to educate and motivate to help you dominate. If you're here live, say hello in the comments. And if you got any questions for our guest, which is Chelsea Stevens with Silver Bells Lighting today, really excited to have her on. And she's a wealth of knowledge and tremendous business owner. And so I'm excited to pick her brain on some of the things that she's done so far to achieve success. And she's just getting started. So join us. She'll be here in just a few minutes. Chelsea Stevens with Silver Bells Lighting. And guys, if you have not, please give me a 5-star review. The best is on Apple or Spotify. I'm begging a little bit because I like it. I like to feel good about myself, and I like to know the good positive feedback. So really excited about today's show. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that are going to help you grow your business. So stick around for Chelsea. And by the way, guys, I'm hiring multiple positions. This is going to be an epic year for Landscape Lighting Secrets. So if you're just like, I don't even know what I want to apply for, but I want to work with you, just send me an email. But the couple positions that we're hiring specifically for are salesperson. So by the way, this is a remote position. You can live anywhere in the world. We need someone to help us grow the business, right? And so someone that has sales experience is preferred. You don't need lighting experience. However, maybe you're on the fence and you're like, man, I've been trying this landscape lighting thing, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business owner. I'm good at sales, but I just don't want to give up. I don't want to feel bad about myself. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be successful in life. You can come work with me and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And it doesn't mean you're giving up. So, but if it's not you, refer someone to us. We actually pay a really high referral commission, $1,500 if you refer someone that works for us. So, the other position is an event CEO. We're doing a bunch of events throughout the year. We're going to do more and more every single year. So we need someone that can help us organize and manage these events. So if you are good at either of those things, then reach out. support@ryanleecoaching.com. Just send me an email and we'll connect. Guys, I want to thank Emery Allen for your guys' support. Tom Garber's always been a great guy to help us out on our events and the podcast and everything else. And really, what sets Emery Allen apart? Well, bulbs aside, they believe customer satisfaction should be top priority always. Emery Allen goes out of their way to ensure lighting professionals have access to the best light sources built with the highest quality components suited specifically for the landscape lighting industry. At the end of the day, it's what's on the inside that counts. So take advantage of Emery Allen's world-class customer service and get 10% off your order for new clients. All you got to do is email tomg@emeryallen.com. That's Tom Garber. It's tomg@emeryallen.com. Mention that you heard about him here on Lighting for Profits, and he'll hook you up with the best contractor pricing possible, which is way better than their website. By the way, don't go to their website. Email tomg@emeryallen.com. Mention you heard about him here on Lighting for Profits. Don't tell him we're best friends unless we're best friends, but tell him you did hear about him on Lighting for Profits, and he'll hook you up. What's up, Mara? What's up, Bethany? What's up, Brian? Thanks for being here. All right, guys. So again, we got Chelsea Stevens with Silver Bells Lighting coming on in just a few minutes, and really excited to have her on. Before we have her on, I want to share an experience with you real quick. right now I'm in the middle of something that's just insane. It's the craziest travel schedule of my life. I don't even know how this happened. It it just was like one thing after another throughout the year. And then it's like, oh, that week's open. Let me do that. And that week's open. Let me do that. And it's like every single week for like 9 weeks straight, I'm out of town. And last week I was at a conference where I got to meet some amazing people from really around the world. I got some amazing inspiration on really what and how I'm going to transform the landscape lighting industry over the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be insane, you guys. It was so good. A lot of the things I learned are going to really help me. And one of the speakers that was there was Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He wrote Who Not How, Gap in the Gain, 10x is easier than 2x. And he was amazing. And I'm not even going to try to really explain what he went over because it was so deep that my mind is still processing some of it. I'm not even kidding. But I will say this. He unlocked beast mode for me. Like my mind was just like, boom. Like it was like out of the scene out of a Beautiful Mind where like I started seeing math formulas and I started seeing the future and all this. It was crazy. All right. How to get there. It was absolutely insane. But I don't even know why I'm telling you that because that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is a couple weeks ago, we had our annual members only event in Nashville. And it's called Secret Summit. It's our annual members only event. And it was freaking awesome. Okay. We worked on our business. We got some things done. It was just so cool to see people having their own epiphanies and their own breakthroughs. And the theme of the week was going all in. Okay. And I decided to pull off a stunt. And yes, I am a travel rookie, but one of these days I'm going to have enough points to rival Greg Matthews, the Marriott points. I need to get more specific on that because I think he has enough points to buy a couple Marriotts at this point. So the theme was going all in, and I decided to do something that would be memorable that these people that attended would never forget the rest of their lives because I wanted them to go all in on their business. And so I decided to show up to the very first session, the very first morning. I showed up, and I was actually a little bit late with a half beard. Yes, a half beard. I had a completely shaved off half my beard, right? And you should have seen the look on the attendees' faces. It was priceless. It was definitely worth it. They were shocked. They thought I was crazy. They knew I was crazy. But then everyone calmed down and they heard me out. And really, I explained to them how over the next few days, we were going to go all in on our business. And over the next couple of years, we're going to go all in on our business. And unfortunately, most businesses look as ridiculous as my face did. Right. And it really did look bad, but not bad enough to shave it. I mean, I kept it all day. They were like, is he going to shave before lunch? Nope. I definitely kept it for lunch. Surely he's going to shave before we go to dinner. Nope. I definitely kept it for dinner. Surely he's going to not go out to the bars after. No, I definitely had the half beard all night long. And what's crazy, Nashville is so crazy. They liked it. They liked it. They are crazy there. But business owners are really not persistent enough to go all in on their business. Okay. A lot of times you try one thing, doesn't work exactly as you thought it would. And then you try something else, right? Or you give up, or you get lazy, or you start something else, right? You see, when you don't go all in on your business, the pain that you created when you started your business never goes away because pain is inevitable. Like when you start your business, first it's exciting and like it kind of numbs the pain. You don't really notice the pain. And then after a while, you're like, man, it's starting to hurt a little bit. And instead of just pain being painful, now you start suffering, right? And while I haven't completely figured out a way to end the pain, like I feel like pain is truly inevitable. I think it's actually part of the growing process, and it's actually good for us. Like we feel pain, you become stronger, right? It can be very valuable to you. But suffering, there's no need to suffer. Okay, pain can be a good thing, but suffering is terrible, right? And I figured out a way to stop the suffering, right? So pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. So this is your wake-up call. This is your wake-up call to go all in on your business. Stop suffering, start succeeding. And what's about to happen over these next few years, no one really knows, right? There's been like talks of a recession and this and that, depending on what news channel you watch. That doesn't really matter. But what does matter is there's going to be change, right? And if you're not going all in on your business, you're going to really, really struggle. If you're not focused, if you don't know which direction you want to go, you're going to struggle, right? And there's going to be pain involved, but you don't have to suffer. So if you want to, stop the suffering, then reach out. Like join us at Landscape Lighting Secrets. Just shoot me an email or go to my website, landscapelightingsecrets.com. But the event was amazing. We had our coaches there. We had Dan Plata, Dan Raker. They put on an amazing, it was about a half day workshop on finances and putting in KPIs and better understanding of where to invest your profits. We had a comedian there. I love comedy. We had a comedian there to break the ice and do some exercises to get people uncomfortable. There's a tremendous amount of growth that can happen when you're not in your comfort zone. And most of us don't grow because we're in our comfort zone, right? And when it starts to get warm in the house, you turn on the air and you cool it down. Right? If it starts to get cold, you turn on the heater. We naturally, as humans, want to stay in our comfort zone, but we need to elevate ourselves and rise to a new comfort zone, right? And get out of our existing comfort zone. And it hurts and it sucks and it feels awkward and everything else. But one of the things that I remember, and you guys can implement this in your trainings and your business meetings and stuff like that. We did the rock, paper, scissors challenge. And it was so fun because basically you need a decent sized group with this. It wouldn't work with just like 3 or 4 people, but we had 25, 30 people in the room, and you do rock, paper, scissors, and best out of 3. And then if you lose, then you automatically support the guy or the gal that beat you. Right. And then you become his number one fan and you go and call on other people. And so like one after one got eliminated, and I made it like a couple rounds, and then I lost to somebody, and then I was their number one fan. I was like, let's go. Like, he's going to take you down. And it was just fun to like let loose and get out of your comfort zone. That's just, it was a great exercise, but it was really awesome to see people being vulnerable, being honest about where they're at and where they want to be and why they want to do it. Because when we're at home, like, people think we're weird when we tell them we want to do $10 million a year. They think you're greedy. They think it's not possible, and they think all this other stuff, right? But when you're in a group of other people that want the same thing, it all of a sudden is the new comfort zone. It's the new natural. So surround yourself with good people. It works out every single time, right? And then finally, we launched some new elements to our program, which I'm really, really excited about. We've got some new accountability coaches. These are members of our coaching program that I've hired now, and they're going to help coach people one-on-one and help them get unstuck and get out of their ruts and do all these awesome things. We launched a new level of our program, Lighting Legends, which is going to be insane. I'm just so excited for this founding group that decided to trust me, trust themselves, and we're going all in for them this year. So launched these new things and these new products and new offerings, and it's awesome. And the goal is to go all in. And again, the pain is inevitable. The suffering is optional. So I'm really, really excited about the next 12 months. I'm excited about what we've got planned. I'm fired up. We've got some new things, even more things coming down our pipeline. So it's going to be a fantastic year. All right, guys, I think it's time. Let me know if you guys are here live, if you're ready. Time to welcome our guest. And I think Greg had this suggestion that every time we mention systems, I think it's going to be a drinking game. So every time from here on out, I mention the word system, go ahead, take a drink. I don't care if it's Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, or your favorite alcoholic beverage. This should be a lot of fun. So let's get our guest on the show. Welcome to the show, Miss Chelsea Stevens. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Good.
Thanks for coming on here.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
I really appreciate it. You're a hard woman to get a hold of, nailed down for something like this. Believe it or not, most people are not like, I just want to be on your show and talk about my vulnerabilities and everything else. But you stepped up. You're like, when can I come be vulnerable with you?
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
It's awesome. I really am grateful because you've got an awesome story. You've got some amazing experiences and stuff like that I know about. But, I think that you've got a message that can help the world. So thanks for coming on here and being vulnerable and doing all this. So and we got to hang out. It was fun hanging out with you and Travis a couple weeks ago and get to know each other better. And Travis was just like blowing everyone's mind and making everyone laugh. And next year, we don't even need to hire a comedian. We got Travis.
You'll be set. Yes.
So let's go back before you got into the lighting business, because that's not where you got your start. How did you get into this whole crazy home service business world?
I actually started in pest control, and it was kind of a crazy startup. I didn't intend to go that direction. I knew pretty much all growing up that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to be self-employed. Everybody in my family is, so I don't really know that I felt like I had a choice. That was just what we all did, right? Yeah. But when I was in college, Travis and I worked for a door-to-door sales company that, was a pest control company. And so we kind of did that gig every summer, went out and traveled to a different part of the country and hired, recruited, managed, trained sales teams. And that was the short-term plan, basically, to hold us over financially, because we were both full-time college students and broke and really needed to make as much money as we could every summer just to be able to get through the school year. So we did that for a few years, and the company that we were with was mostly like small family-owned business. So we got to know the owners really well. And I was actually planning on going to med school. Like, I had applied, I had interviews, scheduled, taken the MCAT, like went through all those hurdles. And the owners of the company decided to launch. It wasn't exactly like a franchise, but basically it was an ownership opportunity that we would have to come in and own a location, own our accounts, not have to run every aspect of the business. We would still run mainly the sales and the summer program, essentially. So we kind of took that leap of faith, canceled my med school interviews, had a total breakdown, and shifted gears, But it was awesome because that was a really good introduction for me, being able to come into a business that was still kind of in its infancy, but it had some things established. But we got to get involved and learn a lot, but also contribute a lot to the growth of that business. It was the timing was really good for us to have a lot of opportunity, but a lot to learn from some pretty savvy and experienced other business owners.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, it's got to be hard. I mean, changing paths like that, I'm sure it's super stressful. But you did have the experience. You kind of already had this preview into it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned knocking doors. I remember knocking doors for 2 summers. What was that experience like for you?
Oh man, you know what? It was a lot. It was amazing. Like, it's one of those experiences that, I become this like old lady, or, I go into mom mode when I like talk to younger people or get opportunities to mentor, because I'm like, go knock doors. Like, it's the greatest experience that you'll ever have. It's one of the hardest things you will experience, as a young person, but you'll gain a lot. So for me, it was tough. I have always been pretty shy. Had to really push myself outside of my comfort zone. Had to have like a very strict like morning routine just to get myself geared up to be able to get out and do it. But I learned so much.
Like some like heavy rock music, or was there like a theme song to get you jammed up, or what?
You know what? I had a playlist that, I'm not even joking, it was like, I picked it, I committed, and that was like the only thing I listened to every summer for like a couple of years to get me like amped up for it. It was a mix of some, I had a little bit of everything in, a little bit of rock, a little bit of country, and everywhere in between. So, but stuff with like good, positive, just like build you up messages and things like that. But yeah, that was my morning routine to get going. I mean, I'd start every summer being so nervous. Like, the first 2 weeks of every summer, I just knew like there was a decent chance I was going to have to ask the driver to like pull over so I could throw up on the side of the road. Like, it was a very intense experience for me. But, I was fortunate to be raised in a household where you didn't really have a choice but to gain sales skills. If you wanted to get permission to go do social things, if you wanted to, whatever it was, like we all just grew up like learning how to be good at sales because we had to. But to be able to take that and put it into a situation where it was literally like feast or famine, right? Like, it was 100% commissioned position. Even when we came on and had ownership, we weren't making dividends or anything like that, in those early years. Like, it was very much determined by like our performance and our team's performance. And, when the pressure is on like that and you don't really have a choice, like, you figure out how to do it. So when I went into that, again, I was terrified, but I had a lot of good like baseline skills. Went into it and I just said, I'm going to be really coachable. I'm going to learn everything I can from everyone I can. And I'm going to work harder than anybody else because I can't afford not to. And I couldn't afford even to like kind of come down from that super amped up level. It was like do or die, right? Like I'm going to give this everything I've got, or I can't do it at all because it's just way too hard.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so cool. And I think if anyone has an opportunity, seriously, go knock doors, because in our conversations, even now, for me, it's longer than you. Like for me, knocking doors, I don't even know how many years ago. It was like, seriously, 20, 25 years ago. For you, it was a little bit less, but still it was a long time ago. But you still reference a lot of that in like when you're talking about getting out of your comfort zone and like being disciplined and like all like having that grit and all those things. Like it sticks with you, and like you recall those experiences, they've made you so much stronger than you had you not had those experiences.
Yeah, it did for sure. And, I think that it also helped me to figure out certain priorities, right? Like if I'm going out knocking doors and I've got to get the sales to make the money, to pay the bills, to eat, whatever, like you don't waste time, right? So like not only do you develop a lot of grit and ability to work really hard, but you figure out how to be really efficient with your time, to prioritize the right efforts. And, even for me, like I ended up having my own kind of little mini systems for how I would manage my day and things like that. Cause again, it's like, it all relied on me. It's not an hourly job. I didn't get paid to show up. I got paid for results. And as a business owner, you're in that same situation in a lot of ways. Right. So I think that there's a big mindset shift that I experienced going through that is invaluable. Like I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Nice. That's awesome. So you go into the pest control business. What happened with that business? And then how did you transition from there to window cleaning was the next one, right?
It actually wasn't. Lighting was the next one.
Oh, was? Okay.
Yeah. I just like to make sure that things are like really chaotic and messy and everything overlaps.
Perfect.
And, organized chaos. If it's not organized chaos, then it's not my gig. So, we, because of our role basically in the pest control company, we were really, really busy for like kind of early spring through fall. But we had a lot of downtime and flexibility through fall and winter. So this was back, before we had kids and other things that were demanding our time and attention. I don't know how to sit still and not be busy. I wish I could learn how to do that, but we had enough downtime. We knew we wanted to do something else, needed another income source, things like that while we were building that business. We actually had a buddy that was involved in the pest control company, but lived down in southern Utah. And he had started a Christmas light business the year before us and was out hanging lights. And I'll be honest, we kind of looked at that and we were like, like if Justin can do it, we can do it, And so we had another buddy that lived here in the Boise area that was involved in the pest control company, worked a similar schedule, couldn't stand to not be busy through our slower season and wanted to make some extra money. And so, we kind of put our heads together and said, hey, let's see if this is something we want to do. And we paid our buddy down in southern Utah to come up and bring us product and come spend a couple days doing some training with us to get us jump started and jumped right in. So the vision at that point was a lot smaller. The plan was to start with holiday lighting, eventually add wedding and event lighting, because the plan was to be pretty heavily involved in the summer sales portion of the pest control company for a couple of years, and then transition to where we'd have managers and things like that running it. So that at that point, the plan was to add the wedding and event stuff that would have been a little bit more heavy during spring and summer. And we got into it, found that we loved the lighting side. We'd kind of been experiencing a little bit of burnout with some of the aspects of the pest control business. And just had some big life changes, bought our first house, got pregnant with our first baby, things like that. And so I think that mentally and emotionally, we started gravitating toward the lighting business a little bit sooner than when we kind of came to terms with that and realized that that was where we really wanted to be directing our efforts. So we were fortunate enough to be able to go through the negotiations, lengthy negotiations with some of our partners in the pest control business. They ended up buying us out of that company. And then our buddy that had done just our first startup season with us in Silver Bells was wanting to give a little bit more focus to the pest control company. And so we ended up not even one full year after starting the business, buying him out of the lighting side. So we really made this big kind of scary shift, like we were going from like a fairly established business to like starting from scratch. But I think it was the right call. So that was how we made the transition. Later on through that process, we'd hit the point where to grow and scale, we needed to bring on some year-round revenue sources, right? Like holiday was really great. It was really successful, but it was a lot to take on running a seasonal business, all of the staffing and training needs, all that kind of stuff. So we had this idea that we thought was really good at the time. We've since, learned the error of our ways. But we decided to add on a separate division for the exterior cleaning services. So like window cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, that kind of stuff. We tried to run it under one company. So separate brands, but everything was co-branded. So our trailers, our email signatures, a lot of our marketing was all co-branded for both businesses. Upside in that being similar clientele, right? There was a lot of carryover customers that used us for both things. But as we got into it, we found that the needs, like who we needed to be in those seats for those employee positions, were different. We found that people really liked, one side of the business or the other. And we found that our systems didn't work as harmoniously as we thought that they would by having both pieces. It probably could have if we had been bigger, but we were at this weird spot where it just felt like we were running around like crazy, focusing on a different service every day. And it was a lot to manage. So we have since separated that out. So now that's a completely separate business. I get to be the visionary in that business, which is super cool. It's a really different role for me, I guess, different focus, but I brought on a really awesome partner and he runs the day to day. And so I get to do more of the fun stuff in that side of the business and take a lot of what we've learned in Silver Bells and apply it there. So, but it's put the pressure on, like it's forced us to get like really good at a lot of things because I only dedicate about 10 hours a week to that other business, but I'm kind of head honcho, right? Like I feel the pressure of the sink or swim situation there.
I think it's cool that you share that because like you could have been like, well, I'm not sure. Like you just decided to take action, right? And you look back like, yeah, we would have done this different, whatever. But like you learned a lot from it, and you're still working on it and stuff like that. But that's one thing I will say, if you are coming into, there's a lot of people that do have like that main revenue thing, and then they hear about Christmas lights and they'll try to be like a carpet cleaning company that does Christmas lights or what landscaping that does Christmas. It's like it is two different skill sets, it's two different brands, it's hard to co-brand, like it's confusing to the customer and all that stuff. So but you don't know what you don't know. So good for you for like just taking action, getting in there, getting your hands dirty, and then you learn from a lot. And now you're here where you do have it separated and you've got your Silver Bells lighting that does, I mean, you guys do everything now: holiday, the wedding, the permanent, the landscape lighting. And I want to ask you about the systems. You're like the systems queen. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. My strength is sales. Like I'm not the best at systems, right? But why are you so disciplined? Why are you so passionate about systemizing your business?
I mean, to some extent it's because we had to be, right? Like we were going from having this really busy seasonal business, right? And having a large, well-developed staff. I would have administrative staff. Like I had all this help, right? And then we would get to the end of holiday season and then we would no longer have any help. So all of these roles and responsibilities that were distributed amongst multiple team members all of a sudden came all back onto me. And it was terrible. It really was. And so we ended up getting really, really focused on automations for one, right? And got really good at building out systems that behind the scenes are fairly elaborate, but they're easier to teach, right? Like I knew that my life for quite a few years was going to be having the seasonal staff. Spring and summer, I'm doing the job of 5 people at a lower volume, but 5 different roles, different distributions of tasks and things like that. And it was all coming back on me. And then I needed to go and hire all of those people again every single year, new people in those seats, teach them and train them. And I was like, there is no way I'm going to keep doing it this way. I can't, quality of life was terrible. And so that was a big part of it, was we had to figure out how to do that. There were some other pressures too. Like, I remember when we were early on in the lighting side, and I would see, other people in the Facebook groups, that are doing holiday lighting, and they're talking about what they're charging in like Texas and New York and Florida and all these things. And I'm like, we're in Boise, Idaho. Like, I can't charge that here, with what our competition is. Like, we were already at the highest price point. And I knew that to grow, that price point wasn't going to get us there. So we had to get really efficient. We had to spend a lot of time and money investing in figuring out how to do things bigger, better, faster, right? And that was, it was a necessity. It really was.
Well, it's interesting because you say it's a necessity, and I agree with you. But I know I've been at times in my life where I know it's a necessity, but I'm too busy. I make all these excuses. And I know there's a lot of people listening the same thing. They're like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't have time. Like, I got to go sell the next job. This employee just quit. They got problems. So there's something about it that you have to take it serious, and you have to schedule time to be business owner, to develop these systems and really make it happen. Right.
Yeah. 100%. Like, there was a trade-off for sure. Right. Like, one of the trade-offs that we had to make to be able to get really serious about systems was we had to start investing in people. I had to come to terms with the fact that there were a lot of things that I was doing on a daily basis that I didn't necessarily want to invest the money or, take on more labor cost. But we had to start figuring out ways that I could take things that I was doing and put them on other people. It got expensive, but it was a necessary piece. And then I had to give up some of the things that I love. Like, I'm hopeful that I'm going to get back into a position where I can be more involved in sales and design again, instead of being in more of a support role for those things. But I had to take a step back. My day does not look like it used to. I'm not out on sales calls. I'm not out doing estimates, all that kind of stuff. And I haven't been for a couple of years. I miss it. That part sucks. Like, I love sales. Like, I'm good at systems, but I also still am very passionate about sales, and design. I had to take on a little less of that to be able to make the time for this. But it has been important. I've had some really, great mentors over the years, and picked up like little bits and pieces, from a lot of people. And one of the things that, I try to keep in mind is what I'm accomplishing supports what we're doing with sales in a little bit different way, than what it used to be when I was out and I was closing the deals. So of course you have to have sales, right? That's super important. But I did have a mentor at one point that explained to me that when you go out and you sell $1, right? You have $1 of revenue. It's not really $1. By the time you pay for all of your expenses, and what you end up with is a fraction of that $1. But if you can take a look at things in your business and you can make them more efficient, if you can figure out a way, whether it's via systems or, there's lots of different ways to accomplish this. If you can figure out a way to truly save $1 in your business, it's literally $1 going toward profit, right? Like, if you can eliminate $1 worth of expense, it's $1 of profit. And so we try to get really good at balancing those things, right? Sales are important. We have to bust our butts on that and make sure that we're hitting our sales numbers. But if we're just so focused on sales and we're not focused on the efficiencies in our business and profitability declines, we're working really hard without necessarily having more to show for it.
That's really good. Like, honestly, when I hear that the first time of like, save $1 versus earn $1, like the salesperson in me is like, wait a minute, I'm going to argue. I don't know what the argument is yet, but I'm going to figure out the way to win this. Like, you can't win that one, like right. It's just truth. Right. And I'm so sales oriented that I was like, I'll just solve all the problems in the world with sales, like I'll just go figure out how to get another $1. But like you said, when you get $1, what do you actually make? Unfortunately, most businesses, I would argue, are making less than 10 cents on that $1. Like, a lot of people say, well, I'm making 50%. No, you're not. Like, this is not true. Right. So you
Yeah.
might be making 10 to 20%. And there are businesses that are doing 30%, maybe whatever. But generally, or all the time, it's not $1. So I love the way you word it, because if you can spend time building these systems, getting more efficient, and you save that $1, that's a pure dollar. Like that is $1. Sure, there's the cost up front of the time, the time and money up front. But now that you've got these things in place, you can scale, maybe not to the moon, but you can scale way bigger than you are now. And it's not going to cost you that dollar at every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a huge difference for sure. And, sometimes I feel like, at least for me, the way I try to look at this is there's going to be short-term sacrifices. Anytime we build a new system, there's going to be short-term sacrifices of some sort, right? Sometimes it's sales dip for a little bit because you're diverting your attention to something else. It's, sometimes it's you've got to hire another person that you're not really ready for necessarily, or you know what I mean, or you're not like emotionally ready to take on the expense that's coming with that. But long term, like right now, I know that what I've invested my time and energy into over the last couple of years with some of our systems now makes it so that there are certain times of year, like holiday season, right? Because we have this collision, right? We've got our holiday lighting division, but it's overlapping with all of our permanent stuff. So we're still doing landscape lighting and permanent holiday and weddings and events and all these things. And, it makes for a wild fourth quarter. If I didn't have the systems in place that we do, I'm probably at the point now where I would need 4 or 5 administrative roles, to be filled. I can do it with 2 because we've built out enough of the systems. And that's with me being like completely out of the day-to-day. Like, I don't do customer service. I don't take calls. I don't respond to emails. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. My team handles a massive volume of those things, especially through fourth quarter for us. But the systems have taken so much off of their plate too. We've taken what they need to worry about and reduced it so drastically. Like all the same things are getting done, but we've taken half of it and automated it. So it's manageable,
That's awesome. I think we may have created a problem because we've said the word. I'm trying to think of another word besides system. I just said it again. Oh my gosh. And there is a drinking game going on. So I don't know what to do here, Chelsea. Like Mike Long is already drunk. Greg is off. He's gone. We'll never see him again. This is bad, but this is a lot of fun. So, okay. Like I'm even thinking of like, how can I rephrase these questions, but I can't do it. Did Lindsay spike this? Like there used to be water in here, but I think I'm playing the drinking game. Chris was getting low on rum here. Here we go. Buckle up, guys. Okay. So what are some systems that people can put in place that are easier than others? Because it's overwhelming to think, well, I don't have time to do this and everything else. Are there some that are like more simple than others to implement?
Oh,
or if there isn't one in particular, like what's the process? Like how can we get started without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the way that I approach it is I have a couple of starting points essentially, right? So early on in our business, a lot of where like the original systems became a priority was because we had errors that were making me want to just rip my hair out, right? Like really stupid errors that just didn't need to happen, but they were system issues, right? Like it's really easy as a business owner to like think that your problems are because of people. And the majority of the time it's actually a lack of systems or a problem in your systems. And so we would look at certain things and we try to find what we felt like we could fix, right? So if it's stuff like leaving materials at the shop, we needed to have a really good start of day process to make sure that we weren't wasting a ton of time, resources, money on getting out to a job site and not being prepared. So we would figure out how to build that, how to build the checklists, how to build the reporting, whatever we needed for those types of things. We also did some physical things, like we revamped the layout of our warehouse to serve the flow of what we needed our start of day and end of day processes to look like. We built out like restocking stations for certain things. So that's been a big one, is like, if you got an error that you think is a dumb error that doesn't need to occur, I would say figure out a way to like build a system to fix that. A lot of the errors that we found that were really common and could be pretty easily fixed with systems were things like transferring information between departments, right? So you got somebody doing your pre-screening, your intake calls and scheduling your bids, and they need to communicate potentially some information to your sales or design team that are going out into the field. They're going out meeting with the customer, and there needs to be a good way to make sure that any of the information that needs to be communicated to other people on the team from that meeting is happening, right? Like from the sales interaction, we've got to make sure that anybody that needs additional information related to order prep or billing or ordering materials or staging materials or communicating with the customer if they have unique needs, like we needed to figure out ways for that flow to be really efficient. And it's had a lot of different versions, right? Like we've done the version of building crappy systems. Like we built a ton of crappy systems in the past. And some of where those things failed was we identified what the problem was, what we wanted to fix. We came up with great solutions, or what we thought were great solutions for how to solve those. But then we fell flat in training everybody thoroughly on them, or we fell flat on not having somebody that could manage the system on an ongoing basis. I would say for us, that was one of the biggest learning curves. Was I would build systems and then I would be like, hey guys, here's the system. And I would pass it off to my crew leaders or my service manager or whatever. And a week later, nobody's using it, and then I'd be super frustrated, but there's an accountability piece. So now when we build out our systems, we're not only looking at what's the problem that we're trying to solve and what's the most efficient way to do that, but we're also looking at who's accountable for making sure that this thing stays running, And that was one of those things that I had to learn and realize that for me, I'm not the person to manage it. Like I'm the person to build it. When I build it, I have to have somebody already in place that's going to do the checks and balances, that's going to make sure that that report that needed to be filled out actually gets submitted at the end of the day and that it's actually filled out correctly or whatever it may be. And it just couldn't be me. Number one, I didn't want to babysit it. But number two, I'm not in the day-to-day. So I'm not in the right situation to be consistently behind a desk at a certain time of day when those need to be checked. So, yeah, we had to think through kind of start to finish what that would look like.
That's huge though. Like
Yeah.
when I launched this business, I experienced a lot of what you just talked about. Like, I actually developed some things and then I handed them off. I trained the person to do it. And then like weeks go by and I'm like, wait, why is the thing not done? Like, wait, what about this? What about this? And when I realized like there's no oversight. Like there's not me like scheduling every Monday. I need to check on this, need to make sure this, and especially launching. Like after a while, then people just know like that's part of their thing. And you can tie it to a scorecard. You can tie it to like this is how you get a raise. Like there's lots of things you can do there. But initially it's going to take a lot more management than it will down the road. And I thought I was, and it's not that I thought that, I thought that they could just handle it, but they couldn't. So it does take that reinforcement. And one of the things that I also found is to make it a little bit more simple. We all have systems, processes, like we all have these things. Sometimes they're not good, but they are what they are. We can just write down like what we're thinking. We can screen record what we're doing. We can film what we're doing. And that's just very basic, right? It doesn't mean that you're solving the problem, but you are solving a problem. You're solving like the documentation of it. How do you train someone, whatever. And sometimes when you go through that exercise, it does expose what the problem is. Sometimes you don't even think there's a problem. And then you're like, wait a minute, like, what? Wait, we're writing this down 3 different times. Why are we having to record the customer's name 3 different times? If we just had it go through Zapier to a spreadsheet and then it shot it over to here, like there's things like that that can be solved and you don't even know that they exist until you start working on it.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think as far as a starting point, like if somebody feels like systems is not their strength, right? Or it's not something that's easy for them to prioritize. We do a lot with like just screen recordings, right? If I've got something that I don't feel like I've got it like nicely packaged, right? Or I don't have the automation portions of it built yet, or whatever it might be. A lot of times we got to start using it anyway. So if I can do a screen recording, and even better, if I can do a screen recording while I'm doing an actual process for something, right? Like I'm not sitting down, I'm just like creating a training. It's like, I'm going to do this anyway. I may as well film it and talk through what I'm doing. So somebody else is not only getting a really good example of what I'm doing, but I didn't have to spend more than 30 seconds of extra time to do it, right? Like I turn on the screen recording. When it's done, I give it a name and I throw it in a folder. And then I let my team know, hey, here's a new video for you to go and watch. And some of that is good enough for certain processes, right? Like there are some things that like you need to have a good training resource for, a video or whatnot, but not everything requires an automation or like a full-blown integrated system between 5 softwares or whatever it might be. But sometimes it's just a matter of having that documentation so that you can better prepare yourself for staff turnover or, meeting like your team's capacity, right? Sometimes that sneaks up on us and all of a sudden we've got to go and hire an additional person to add to our customer service team or, to our install team or whatever it might be. And even if we can reduce the amount of training that we have to like physically do one-on-one, sitting down at the desk or getting out on the job site, we can cut that down even a little bit. That's huge. Most business owners don't really operate feeling like they've got this like excess of time. At least I don't know very many of them that, feel like they've got more time on their hands than they know what to do with. So anything that we can do that's like little steps like that to help us be a little bit more efficient and help our training with our teams to be more consistent. I think that's always a win.
For sure. No, that's great. One thing that I admire about you is you're able to work with Travis, like, not specifically Travis. All right. That sounded like a shot. I love you, Travis. Like I can't work with Lindsay. Like, it's just like, so when I meet people like you that like, you're able to like still be married and still work together. I'm like, what? That's not even possible. How is it working with your husband?
You know what? It's awesome. It is like, it doesn't come with it, without like some downsides and some challenges, but we've kind of always done that, right? Like we were both involved in the pest control company, and even had worked together side by side in some jobs prior to that. There's a learning curve. Like we had to figure that piece of it out. But, Travis and I have very different personalities. Anybody that has met both of us knows that we're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of personalities.
You're always apologizing for him. I don't know why.
I mean, he's the awesome one. Like that's 100% true. But we have very aligned goals. We have very similar interests, and we have the right overlap in skills, right? Like I think that one of the reasons that we work really well together is we both have pretty strong sales skills, right? But like if I asked him to sit down behind a computer and build a system or an automation, he would want to crawl in a hole and die. Like that would be absolutely torture to him. But like if the need arises and I need to send him out to, be out training or doing installs or whatever and getting down in the dirt with these guys and like busting his butt for 16 hours a day, like he can do it and he'll rise to that occasion, So I think that, we do have very different skills, but I think that we also have a really big appreciation for what we each bring to the table. There are times that we have to be really intentional about like on date nights. It's not great if it's just the two of us because we're going to talk about work. So we do a lot of like going on double dates, right? And making sure that we have friends around and people that will like help to divert our attention from just like talking about the business all the time. And Trav's a lot better about that, right? Like he's good at shutting off the pillow talk and being like, we're not talking about work. It's midnight and I'm tired. Like shut up and stop talking about work. So I rely on him pretty heavily to provide some boundaries and help with my lack of self-control because I could talk about this stuff all day.
No, it's awesome. You guys are like a great match, and it's fun to see you guys work together. So it's good.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about being a business owner?
Man, I feel like the hardest part for me has been different in different phases of the business. right now we're doing some pretty bold things, taking some big risks, making some drastic changes. I think the hardest thing for me right now in doing that is I feel a lot of pressure to not screw it up. Like I feel like if things fall apart, it's going to be my fault. And so sometimes I worry about being like maybe too innovative sometimes, or too, I don't know. I get tunnel vision sometimes. And so I worry a little bit about us like getting derailed from the big picture goal. But I do think that one of the hardest parts about the business in general, right, regardless of the phase that you're in, is one for me is honestly, and I hate to admit this, but having to be so reliant on other people, right? Like we're at a spot right now where if I did not have my team, we would be absolutely screwed. Like the systems that we've built have helped to make it so our team can be smaller and our team can be more effective. But it's hard for somebody like me that's a little type A and a little bit of a control freak to hand things over to other people. But I think that that's also a big part of why building out systems and focusing on efficiencies and a lot of those things has been a high priority for me, is because it's part of what helps me feel more comfortable to delegate and pass things off. And I do think that it's also a big part of what's gotten our team more invested in the big picture, right? Like they're not just handling day-to-day tasks. They're not just involved in transactions. Like they're invested in building these things with me, right? And making things work and improving their roles and finding ways that what they're doing can be better. I have a rock star team right now. Like I am so, so grateful. We've worked really hard to curate the group that we have, and definitely went through some serious pain to get to where we're at. But we found that combination, right people, right seats, and systems that work to serve the business and its goals have made that part easier. Like there's still discomfort, right? But I think that part has been the hardest thing that we've seen get improved by emphasizing and focusing on this part of the business.
It's a great point, because I think it's a common denominator amongst all entrepreneurs is like letting go.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part, because it's like we're so passionate about the thing. No one feels like us, and no one can do as good as us as at the thing or whatever. And like letting go is hard, but you're right. Like you develop these processes, these systems, you put the right people in place, and it makes it way easier, So, but it's still scary. Doesn't mean it's not scary. And it's to me, that is the hardest part. It's like, how do you get your vision to be executed from people that you tell them your vision, but they don't feel it the same way, and they don't understand the why, and you have to share your purpose and your vision and all this stuff, but still they're not you. Right. And so that is the hardest part about scaling a business for me as well. So,
yeah, I mean, it's your baby, right? Like you don't want to see it. Yeah. You don't want to see it fall apart.
All right. So the last couple of questions as we wrap up. If you were to, what's something that you might do differently if you could go back in time and talk to Chelsea 5 years ago? What would you tell her?
I would have started building systems sooner. I would have figured out how to be better at delegating sooner. I think that I would have added some different areas of emphasis to our systems. I think our systems are really solid in terms of, again, like that error reduction piece. Sometimes I forget. I'll talk to, some of my other business buddies that do holiday lighting in other parts of the country, and they're talking about their pain points. And I'm like, oh yeah, 2 years ago, that was like my biggest headache, but we figured out how to make that progress. But one of the areas that I don't think we put as heavy of a focus on as early on in the business as we should have was more of the data piece, right? Like using our systems that were helping us to reduce errors and be efficient to also be a key part of data collection so that we could make better decisions. We're in a spot right now where the money flies out the door really fast, right? Anything that we decide to do, anything that we decide to invest in, the money goes fast. And so having better data in place earlier to be able to make those decisions and know that the things that we're doing that maybe are a little bit riskier are more strategic based on numbers, based on data, instead of like the way we feel about it, right? Like we've gotten away with doing a lot of things based on just like our gut instinct, and I rely a lot, or I've had to rely a lot because of that, on like intuition. Super grateful that like can pull that off some of the time, but also I look back, and as I'm getting more of our team members elevated into new positions, I've also kind of tied their hands a little bit, because we're trying to figure out thresholds and benchmarks for accountability and stuff like that. But I didn't keep track of some of the nitty gritty finite pieces of data as well as I could have, even though they would have been super easy to implement in a lot of our systems. Like I could have been gathering that in a much more effective way earlier on. It's still an area that we've got areas to, ways to improve, areas to improve. But I think I would have been better. That would be the advice, is to be better about like combining both of those in those processes. Right.
Nice. And then finally, what is the future Chelsea trying to tell the present Chelsea now?
Oh man. I think that future Chelsea is probably saying, I don't know, get a little bit better about maybe letting certain things be good enough. I think that I fight those perfectionist tendencies a lot. That's a tough one for me, that I used to see as a strength, right? Like when you're a kid growing up and you're getting praised by your teachers and you're getting praised by your parents for being, a certain way and having certain achievements and being good at a lot of things or whatever it might be. I always felt like that was a positive. Then I got into being an entrepreneur, and I realized that being a perfectionist is actually like the worst thing in the entire world, because it makes it difficult sometimes to move forward with things, to implement things, to let things start running within the business before you've like got it all dialed in. Making progress, but I would say future me, like I'm hoping that I get to a point where I'm a lot better at that than I am now.
That's so good. That really is like so good, because again, everyone feels that, it's all about, like get the better grades, be better, be faster, be better at whatever. And you feel that need to be perfect, perfectionism, like you're always seeking excellence. Right. Yeah. But then as a business owner, like you can't, like, there's no way. You have to let go. You have to let people fail. You have to let yourself fail. You have to do it. And it's like, what? But I'm supposed to be this like excellent entrepreneur. And I thought that's what it is. Like, no, you got to let go. You got to fail fast so that you can win fast, So that's great. I mean, I'm glad the future Chelsea is talking to the present Chelsea.
Yeah, I hope it sinks in a little faster. That would be great. But it is hard, and I love like this environment that you've curated for education, right? For education, not only within lighting, but for all of us as business owners. And I do think it's hard sometimes to see what other people are doing, or to learn new information and have the vision, right? Like to know where you want things to be once you've got something put together, whether it's a system or some other aspect of your business, something with marketing or whatever it might be. It's hard sometimes to see the awesome version that somebody else has dreamed up, or even you've dreamed up yourself, and be willing to move forward before it's at that level. That's tough, but it's super important. And I think that for a lot of people, that's one of the biggest hurdles with taking that leap and making certain things a bigger priority in their business, systems or otherwise, right? Sorry, Mike, I know you're going to be in a rough spot tonight with all your drinking.
I'm sure we have several people in the coma right now.
Yeah. I think it's hard. It's hard to see where you want it to be and be able to just like step back and say, you know what, right at this moment, like good enough is good enough. That, what do they call it? The progress or imperfect action is better than no action, or whatever that quote is.
I think I say, or I don't know, imperfect progress is better than perfect procrastination, or something like that.
Something. Yeah. I mean, I told my staff like yesterday, I'm like, can you get this on my wall, please? Like I need it right above my door where I can see it from my desk, so that I can have that constant reminder. But yeah, I think it's hard. I think that that's the mindset piece that stalls a lot of us from taking more action or taking the right action. You know, sometimes the thing that needs the most focus in your business is the thing that sucks the most because you put it on the back burner forever because it sucks. And, you know, you asked earlier about like starting points. I would say for a lot of us, if we could figure out the thing that we don't want to do the most, like whatever is the most horrible thing that we have been putting off tackling in our business, there's a decent chance that one should be at the top of your list, you know, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, that was awesome. Listen, I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah.
You've done a great job here. Now you got to attend to motherly duties.
I know. I got to get off to ballet and do the kid run around. So,
yeah. So, but listen, that was awesome. I appreciate you coming on here. Thanks for sharing your advice, your experience, your story. I learned a lot. I know a lot of other people did too. And hopefully the future Chelsea is going to keep talking to the present Chelsea. So thanks for being here.
So yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, you guys have an awesome week. And sorry if you got too drunk, but we nailed the systems. One last one. See you guys.